Hi everyone, I'm Sarah Baker, and this is Momma Stories. I created Momma Stories after seeing how impactful sharing stories can be in overcoming the challenges of motherhood. I am where I am today because of the stories of so many amazing, strong mamas, and I want to share that with every mom I can. So follow along to laugh, cry, and be empowered. Thanks for tuning in to today's show. Have you heard about how we are changing the story for moms? Momma Fund is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing products, services, and education to moms in need. So check us out at mommafund.org. All right, welcome to the show. This week we have Anya. Anya is joining us all the way from Canada.
Yes, Toronto. Hello.
Toronto. This is my second international interview, also from Canada, Toronto, Canada. So I guess Momma Stories has their way of getting into Toronto. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who Anya is?
Oh, okay. I certainly will. So I am an older lady. To start there, I'm 52. I have two grown kids, 18 and 21. I'm a trained British nanny. I'm obviously from England. You could probably hear that. And I'm also a yoga teacher and a parenting coach. And something that I love about spreading the message of being a conscious parent. That's kind of become my thing, which feels like so much of yoga philosophies and parenting kind of put together.
Yeah. So I always wonder when somebody is so focused in their career in like helping parents and wanting parents to either find a different way of parenting that maybe society teaches us or than we naturally go for. I'm assuming your mama journey is what led you to follow this career, or were you doing this before you had kids?
No, 100% my mama journey. I actually didn't know that that's what I was doing. And I also didn't have a plan to become a coach in it. Not at all. It was really different guided, I guess, because my training as a British nanny, and I had been a nanny in England and in Switzerland, and that's what brought me to Canada. Well, actually, it didn't bring me to Canada, but that's how I got to stay in Canada. And I thought I was going into parenting very prepared. You know, I had helped raise all these other children. I've got this. And then I hold my little boy for the first time in my arms, and I thought, shoot, I don't know anything. I know nothing. I hadn't experienced, although I loved the kids I nannied for. I mean, to me, I was fully in. But it was just a totally different feeling that this was now fully my responsibility, which felt incredibly scary. And also a lot of what I thought I knew, I just couldn't see how you could apply it now. I saw him as such a individual little soul and was, So my whole thing of like, I've got this. Yes, this is what you do. This is when they nap. This is when they eat. This is how life goes. Poof, went out the window.
You know, I actually met up with a friend, excuse me, a while back. We were friends in like 7th grade, and we had both had little boys, and we were doing a little walk and connecting as moms. And she was a nanny previously as well. And she said the same thing. She's like, everyone told me I knew what I was doing because I did it for my career. But now I have this baby and it's totally different. Like you're their mom, you're not their nanny. That's why I think it's funny when people are like, oh, they're so good with kids, they're going to be a great parent. I want to be like, no, playing with a kid at a park or playing a video game does not resemble parenthood at all.
It doesn't. And we really think it does, because even becoming a nanny, I had babysit. I love babysitting, and I grew up in a small town in England. And I was sort of the babysitter. I was always booked every Friday, and I loved it. And everybody's like, she's so good with kids. Yes. You know, and even my parents, I think they just thought that was going to be a career of mine, that to be a mum. You know, you need to be a mum. You want to be a mum. And then you're like, ooh, it's actually very, very different. And the guilt and the shame that comes with being a mom, and the constant questioning of ourselves and this enmeshing that happens when we have a child, right? We're just fully in on their lives. Like I know through my parenting, I forgot me. I was no longer Anya. I was the mom. I was the wife. We did run our own business. I was all those titles, but me, who am I, right? It took me years till I was like, whoa, hang on a second, lady. You matter too.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, I always see on Instagram now, like, oh, self-care, self-love, like it's a hashtag and it's what we talk about.
Yeah.
But I would agree that things change when you become a mom, obviously. And just because we put it in a hashtag or we say we're going to focus on it or whatever it is that you see on social media, like it's a real thing that you really do have to kind of find this new self as a mom, because even going to the movies is different and getting your nails done is different. Like everything is just so different.
Completely.
You have a baby to think about. You have a baby.
Absolutely. And they fully rely on you, especially when they're little. And, the society is telling us that, this is just what women are for, that it's even now, it's still this idea that, yes, you can have the job and the life, but, you need to know, what you're doing as a mom. You need to be sort of a bit of a martyr. You need to give everything for your children. And I definitely, when my kids were young, the support around to do something for yourself was not there. It was like, you need to be home even. And I was working, you need to be home with your children. You need to be the one there. And I was lucky enough that my husband and I are both self-employed. And so we have our own business, and when I would go to work, he was home with the children, but it still wasn't accepted. Yeah. Crazy. Like, hello, who's the dad? Why? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I feel like I know back in the day, there was all that pressure of like, you got to stay home and care for your family. And then you also have to provide, and who provides? And it must be the husband. And I feel like in today's world, there's a lot of examples or people trying to kind of change that mindset, because just for their situation at home, it works better if the dad stays home, or there's a mom who has her own business or works for a company and wants to go back to work. But it's still like all this balance of, well, now you can't volunteer as much and you're not as involved and you're a busy mom. And then this mom stays home too much. Like, it's just like, man, can we just live our lives?
And yes, absolutely. And thank God people are stepping up to that now, definitely. Yeah. And saying, yes, I'm a mom and I'm who I am.
Yeah.
And my big awareness came around the idea that we want our children to dream big, right? We want our children to feel confident and secure and feeling really good in their skin. How are they going to learn that if we don't have it ourselves?
Oh, yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Right? So if we're not living our life and following our dreams, whatever they can be, big or small, we all know, like our parents used to preach to us stuff. Did you learn that way? No, you learned how they really were, what they were really doing.
Yeah. No, it's so true. I feel like I'm a self-help junkie. I love self-help books. I love motivational speakers.
Me too.
I love people who are just trying to be a better version of themselves. It's always something that's been like, I've been really drawn to that in my life. And so I've always been like, oh yeah, listen to this book or do this thing or practice this. But I'm not kidding you. When I had Grayson, I was like, wow, this is like the best self-help book I can have ever. And he's right here, because it's like, if I tell him you need to be kind, then I need to be kind. And if I tell him you need to follow your dreams, I have to follow my own dreams. Like, he doesn't know how to do that unless he sees somebody do those things. So he's my best version of myself. I'm trying to be every day, because I'm just trying to be.
Yeah, they inspire us that way, right? Because you see the world differently once you have a child.
Oh yeah.
You there's no way that you can't. They're not like a new handbag you just put on your shoulder and off you go, right? Their eyes are watching, their ears are listening. We are their world at the beginning there.
Yeah.
And that's overwhelming too. Holy smokes. As a parent, you sort of go, oh gosh, all the stuff all my baggage, all the stuff I'm carrying.
Yeah.
It's like you're just going to present that to your child.
It's like I just actually got a tattoo on my arm of Grayson's coordinates of where he was born. And I think about this tattoo and I think like it was the most empowering moment of my life. And then also like the most suffocating moment of my life, because it's like, it's so empowering and amazing and wonderful what our bodies can do. And there's like kind of this pride I hold from that. And then there's also a lot of things that are hard and difficult and yucky and never the same. And like the simple things of just going to the bathroom or doing my hair or like just the small things to like the really big things. Like there's just, I don't know, to me, it's like so empowering and then so suffocating, and it's great.
I fully understand you. And I thought I was super prepared because that had been my field. And I totally understand you. I can't think of another time in my life that I had felt so overwhelmed with making any simple little decision for somebody else. Like actually for me too, and I didn't realize this being named as a conscious parent, because at the time this was just about what was right for me. You know, my son's now 21, my daughter's 18, but I found it so hard to even name them, because to me they were not me. You know, they were part of me, obviously, and luckily we were fortunate enough that, you know, husband, wife, both, everything worked, and we were able to have babies. But to name them felt so hard for me, because I thought, wow, it's another person, another human, an individual, and I'm claiming a name for them that they have no choice of.
Yeah.
You know, and everyone was like, "You're crazy. We've had baby names forever," and I never had thought of that.
Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing, is that it's like different for everybody. I mean, some people have a family name that they pass down, and so that's easy. And then some people pick it randomly out of a hat. I mean, it just depends on where you go, and we all do it differently. So you had your son, obviously 21 years ago, and so that was a pivotal time for you. So when did you start like focusing your career into parenting? Like when did you start to see like, okay, parents need help, or I need help, or however it is that led you into this journey?
Yeah, it actually was a very roundabout journey, because I had, when my, at 40, when I reached 40, I knew that the business that I was in with my husband, I no longer wanted to be in that. My daughter was starting school full time, grade 1 here in Canada. And before I had been able to manage both sides of things, that I would be with them during the day and then I would go to work in the evening. And that had to change, because she was now gone all day, and that would mean I would barely see her, you know, so that was a big change for me. And I then actually had already been taking yoga for many years, and I was led to teach kids yoga. And then I went and did my yoga teacher training. So I was actually more focused on yoga. And I didn't realize at that point how much yoga really helped me in my parenting, in being more mindful, in being more present, in keeping my ears open to listen, like more grounded, right? And so I was actually looking to build more my yoga career, maybe have a yoga studio, those kind of things. And I tell you, it was so funny, because I didn't even know about coaching. That was all new to me. I was still fairly new online. And in meditation, which I do a lot of, and sort of trusting my intuition, it kept coming through this thought of, you need to help parents. You really need to help parents. And I know that I was listening in on lots of parents online and friends and that. And I kept thinking, this isn't the right way. There has to be a different way, you know? And so anyway, so that sort of kept coming through, and I was thinking, what? No, I don't really want to come work with kids in that same way that I did when I was nannying. And then it came around to helping parents. And when I started to sort of float it out there, or to start sort of talking about it, I really found sort of a tribe and people with a need to, how can we do it differently? I know that it's not working to do it the way that I was raised, or the way I think I should do it. I really want to come into trusting my intuition Because when we trust that, we do know the right decision, right?
Yeah.
And I think the best way to explain that in my idea to do with conscious parenting, and there's a lovely lady, Dr. Shivali, who is, the one whose book I read and I was like, oh, wow, who knew that had a name, And it was really the change of being a top-down parent. So the top-down parent idea, which is what, I don't know how you were raised, but that's definitely how I was raised, was that the parents are sort of up here and the child is underneath them. And the parent is supposedly the one that's wise and gets to say, yes, you can, no, you can't. This is what your life should be. And the children have to sort of follow along or not, right? Be in trouble. And the idea that we're actually all kind of, which you tapped into too, you're saying you're sort of raising together. Like you said, the self-awareness from what your child mirrors back to you is like the deepest stuff you didn't even know you needed to deal with,
Yeah.
And I'm not a psychologist. This is all just through my own work and what I'm continually still working on with my guys and in my family. But that was sort of the journey into then, would people be interested in this? And I found that I couldn't keep quiet about it any longer. And so it's sort of, I realized I had been supporting mums for years as a yoga teacher, and just through friends. A lot of friends would come to me for my thoughts and my ideas or my guidance. And so it kind of just evolved now more to make that a bigger thing, to really support mums, because we are kind of left dangling a little bit to deal with everything. And when it doesn't align with us, and it isn't fully, somebody will say, oh, you must not this because of this. And you're thinking, actually, I don't think that's a big issue. Or I'm not, your kid's going to be out of control if you don't such and such. And I realized, no, that's all the fear. That's all the fear of the story. If your child doesn't go to bed at this time, they'll never make it in school. And if your child, it's all based on what's not really happening right here, right this moment, right? It's in the stories from the past and stories from the future. And so I kind of went around and around, but that's how then being a parent coach came about.
Yeah. Well, I do think it's so funny because what you're saying when you're saying all this stuff is I feel like what we experience mostly online today, right? There's like so many opinions and this expert and this person and this whatever. And I think your approach of like, I'm going to build this tribe through something that I love, through something I'm passionate about, then I'm going to coach them like face to face or in person. I think it's just like so different because now you're actually getting somebody who understands the actual situation versus like reading a book and having it be interpretive to how you think the book thinks you should pursue the situation. When you're like, the reason why I picked up this book is because I don't know what I'm doing. So how am I supposed to know what I'm doing now? Like that just...
Yeah, absolutely. And certain things relate and certain things don't. And our mumminess has that wisdom inside us. It really does. It's all the other stuff around. Like, so when my kids were younger, it was a huge transition for me to go from quite a formal British nanny, always crazy and fun, but I still, I was raised, these are the rules, these are the boundaries, kids should listen, blah, 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 to thinking, no. And I didn't have anybody around me who necessarily even supported this. My husband, luckily, but I'm talking about grandparents and everybody sort of saying, no, you can't be doing that. And that's not right. And I realized that I was so full of fear and anxiety of, the world outside for my children. I thought I was the only one who could make them happy. I was the only one who could keep them safe. And that's a burden, holy smokes, for a human being to take on for somebody else. And we're not talking, your guy's little. We're not talking when they're little. Obviously, you are that person, right? To some degree. But there's a chance to sort of still lean back a little bit and let them find their way. My kids obviously to do with university and things. Neither of my guys have gone at this point. They're both, my son has now actually, but my daughter's just graduated high school. And the amount of fears everybody's just trying to put on about, oh no, she has to go straight to study. She doesn't know what she wants to do. So she's working. It's okay. And we get trapped into those minds or those fears of the future. And that is scary, right? It's scary to make those choices for another person.
It is.
But I love it. I really love it because I really see that we all want to change the world, right? We all want this world to be a kinder, nicer place. And so I really feel passionate about, one family at a time, making some choices a little bit. It's a mindset switch a little bit, right?
That's what I think
and that can kind of...
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. So I think we have a bit of a delay. I was saying that it's that mindset switch a little bit of like, I felt so amazing when I finally realized it's not all on me. Not all on me. I'm not so responsible that as my child messes up, which they do, and I've gone through teenage years already, so I have 101 stories there, horrible, horrible things that would just put me, in shame and guilt and what's wrong. But it's like, what's the big goal? Are my kids able to be responsible human beings? Are they kind? Are they capable of taking care of themselves? Are they full of, lots of love and friendships and know who they are? There's the big picture.
Yeah.
And we do sweat the small stuff. And when we do, my gosh, I did for years and years. So I was almost exhausting myself.
Well, and I think it's, when you talk about a mindset shift, I 100% agree with you because it is all around us all the time. This expectation, this motherhood goddess, this thing either somebody's told us or we've created and manifested in our mind or something we've romanticized. And it's just, there's just a lot. And I don't think as moms, we have a lot of time to sit back and really think about that usually. And so if you can, like when we talk about this, like hashtag self-care stuff we post online, like taking that time to really unpack how you feel about that and why you feel like you have guilt or shame about a situation.
Yeah.
And just really, like there's so many times in my motherhood journey, just and Grayson's only 2, where I've had to be like, wait a second, do I care about that? Or do I care that somebody else cares about that? And
oh my gosh, you just hit it on the head, Sarah. 100%.
And I've had to be like, okay, no, I don't care. Like, no, that's not my thing. That's their thing. That's how they raise their babies. And that's good. But that's just not how I raise my baby. And it takes a lot of pause and being like, why am I reacting like that? Why do I feel like that? And then stepping back. And it's hard to do when you don't have a lot of time and when you just kind of have these natural human reactions of like, oh, this is how I feel about that. And then sit back and being like, wait a second, why do I feel like I need to put all that pressure on myself, on my son, on my family? And then be like, oh, never mind. That's not important. Step back and redo this. And I think it's so hard because like you said, like our kids are going to mess up. I cannot tell you how like much that resonates with me because there are things that Grayson does as a 2-year-old that sometimes I'm like, ooh, that's uncomfortable for me as his mom because that's not how I would react. Like he's really shy and I'm really not shy. And so I have a really hard time with that in public or when people say hi to him or, he's a baby. So people are like, oh, he's so cute until he starts having a tantrum. Then they don't say that. But, and he just
you can still say that though. You're like, yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. And he just like buries his head. And it's so funny because I get uncomfortable. And I think in my mind, I have to in the moment not say things like, oh, he's just really shy. I try really hard not to say that because that tone of, oh, he's just really shy. I don't want him to think that being shy is a bad thing. I just have to remember that he can be shy if that's what he is. And I cannot be if that's what I am. And I got to let him just be the human that he is. Like I can't keep making him be this person that he's not. Do you know what I mean? Like I can't make him be this super outgoing kid because that's just not who he is. And maybe someday he'll be
and it's
that.
sort of, we look, absolutely. And it's what triggers us, right? We're raised to be social. And I remember with my 2, so my son was just smiley and happy with everybody. He was like his arms out, people want to cuddle him, no problem. And then my daughter is my teacher. She comes along and she couldn't give a poop about pleasing anybody. So we would be at family functions and she would just stare them down, no smile, no nothing. And I was forever trying to compensate, like, oh, she just woke up from a nap. Oh, no, she's just, and it's like, leave it. She's very smiley now. She's okay, but it's that idea, which you said so beautifully, which is sort of my dream, that we just accept them as they are. It's not excuses for them. We don't have to make out anything. It's just like, and the people wait for us to speak, and then just stay silent, just smile, just take the conversation where you want, right? We want to, how beautiful would we feel now if we felt 100% fully accepted as who we are?
Yeah. Well, it's what we search for. It's what, Instagram or Facebook or likes or comments, right? That's like literally what we as a community and as a society do. That's how we base our worth, is on those types of things, right? Like if the people are accepting our picture or commenting or liking, it's just in us. And I think that's why it's so important as moms to not be so hard on ourselves when we do do these things, or when we do allow these things to trigger us, because it's just so ingrained in us to not do that. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of time.
It does. It totally does. And I think the big thing is, which is so important, is that we are kind to ourselves. There is no perfection. Like even with what I'm doing, my goodness, the stories I could tell you of when I messed up, loads, horrible stuff, really angry, shouting, screaming, swearing. I've been there. My kids have had problems with teachers, and I've been called to the principal's office. My son, even as a teen, police stuff, in our little town here. And so it's not about perfection, right? It's not about achieving, this lovely, perfect child, because they're not, and we're not. And they're horrible at times, right? And they're mean, and they're, annoying. That's all okay, right? That's life. So is my husband, right? Why do I expect more from my child than I would from him?
Yes, I love that you said that. I always say I have two babies. One is 37 and one is 2. Those are my 2 children.
And thank goodness the 37-year-old is toilet trained. There you go.
Yeah. Thank God. The second that that second that he regressed, we're going to find someone else to help. I've done my fair share of diapers and cleanups.
Yeah, so I'm sure.
But yeah, I think it's even I love that you just shared that, because even as like a parent coach, I'm like, she's got it all together. Like, look at her. She's a parent coach. She coaches parents. And for you to share that, it's like, no, it's not that. It's just that you just have to have your community and your guide to help you through this, because no one gives you a book on motherhood and on parenthood. It just...
No, and there's a myth that we should just know what we're doing. Each child is so individual that I thought I had it together, say, with my son. And then my daughter comes along 3 years later, and I had to, everything I thought I knew. One example, which I love to share, is my son was an amazing eater, right? From day one, whatever, I nursed him. He moved on to solids, everything, no problem. And I'm thinking, oh, wow, I'm a big judge of parents going, it's really these parents are not exposing their children to these foods. It must be that, and I was so relaxed. And then my lovely daughter, and she's lovely. I shouldn't keep bringing her up as my example, but but in terms of, she did not want to eat anything. She lived off white bread and pasta for probably her whole second year of life, and we would all sit at the table. She didn't want it. She would sit under the table, and I was horrified. What's going on? This is how it's supposed to be. Until you really realize, she doesn't sit under the table now. She sits quite nicely with knife and fork, But it was that same sort of idea, this judgment of this is how it is. And you're feeling really proud as a parent. Oh, I've got this down. And then, hey, no, she's going to show me that I don't. And to let her be who she is.
Yeah.
And like you say, things that you care about and things that you don't care about. Some stuff is important, and that's where your boundaries are. And that's, a way of being as a family. And then there's other things that you kind of go, what? They're not going to do that forever.
Yeah.
This too shall pass. That helped me, that phrase.
I should have gotten that tattooed on my arm, because Grayson is in
Yeah.
like full on tantrum toddler, just like,
Yeah.
I mean, and then everybody's like, oh, the 3s are worse. And I'm like, you guys, stop saying that to parents. They don't want to know the worst is coming.
No, and it's so not always true. We do that. We do that as a society, right? It's always this fear of, when you get teenagers, it's going to be really scary. And you know what? Parts weren't pleasant and parts were fabulous.
Yeah.
And again, you're at a different stage yourself. And I don't know if you've heard of Byron Katie. She's just in the self-help realm. Anyway, she has this lovely way, and she's not really talking about parenting, but I love it because she says there's your business, there's God's business, and that could be universe or God, whatever people's beliefs are. And then there's your business, God's business, and their business. Stay in your business. I love it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, and I think it's so important too, because it's like you don't want to scare somebody for the next season. And I hate that when people do that, because it's so different for everybody. Like you're saying, like breastfeeding could be really hard or could be really easy, or could just be something you don't do at all. Like it doesn't have to be this big opinion that people have. Just listen to a mom, let her talk. Don't insert your opinion all the time. Which is a hard thing to not do.
It is hard not to do, especially with those close to us. It's super hard. But on the other hand, you sort of start to think, like, how about you just check in with kindness and love to this mum who's doing her best. She's doing the best she can with what she knows. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. It doesn't have to look like somebody else. Like even people who have a parent who's felt 100% opposite mine, which there are many, probably more so. There's still this feeling of awness about, wow, you know what? I love you, right? I care that you are being who you need to be and having a family how it works for you.
Yeah.
Right? It's only when it doesn't work, then come on over my side.
Yeah.
Come and talk to me. Let's have a discussion, right?
Yeah.
But it does, it's for everybody. I mean, I, even through the yoga training and yoga philosophies and stuff like that, to me, they just resonate so strongly. But, I'm not a really totally peaceful, calm person. I'm not always kind, and my kids will show me that. They pick that up right away. They're quite quickly the ones who are the judge of me, saying, Mom, you didn't say thank you to that lady who brought you a tea. And I go, what? Oh, sorry, thank you.
Hey.
But they're there to teach us, right? They raise you up. They raise you up to be more who you are because you have eyes watching you.
I feel like that example right there shows the amazingness of your parenting, that your child is saying, Mom, you have to say thank you. If Grayson said that to me right now, I'd be like, okay, I'm done. I did it. I raised the best human there ever was. You're welcome.
That's right, exactly. You're welcome, world.
You're welcome.
Off you go.
Bye-bye. That is so funny. Okay, so you are now in this phase of motherhood where you have one child that's obviously an adult, and then you have this other child who's just now entering into adulthood. So what is, like, for me, obviously you have your baby, you go through postpartum, there's all these things you just didn't know about parenting in this moment of newness of being a mom. But what are some things now that you're a mom of adults that you didn't know and now you're learning?
I didn't know. That's a great question. Something that I know I didn't know was that actually they're incredibly wise. That was a big one. That all my fears and things that come out, make sure you're, in the car with somebody and they're not drinking, and make sure this and make sure this. And they're like, you know what, Mom, I've got it. And I need to shut up. lean back and trust, right? That's a big one. And the other side is that they still really, really need our connection. And it's hard because they are not as pleasant and looking like they're open to receive our advice or our ways. And there's just so many different ways that we can approach them, but we don't want to stop talking. We want to still be a little bit in their business. That was a bit easier with my son than it was with my daughter. But I was her, right? She's my mirror. She gave it right back to me. Oh, yeah? Think you're so smart?
Yeah, yeah. I find that
you're on a
lot.
need-to-know basis, lady.
Yeah, I find that a lot, that there's like I don't know what the word is, but for sure being a mom to a boy is very different than being a mom to a girl. And I can imagine that there's a lot of, I don't know if the word's competition, but almost like pride, like I have to show you as a woman to woman, like that I got this, maybe.
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting you say that, because I had to work super hard not to go there, because I wanted to go there. I wanted to, really, I could see that I could so quickly go into sort of a victim way, or a way of feeling like, put the guilt on her, as she's starting to blossom and come into her own. And I had to consciously work really hard that's not, because I know that in the future, I don't want that. I want her to rise, right? I want her to be who she is. And that's not going to be me. She's not me. Right? And so that's super you said that, because it can be, and we have to make the choice. Like, I see so many people whose relationship with their parents is so strained, and I know I don't want that. So I'm the one who had to make the changes. She gets to just be who she is because it's her life, right? And she gets the consequences of her own behavior. A few times I pretended like she shot me and fell to the floor because her words were so nasty. I thank God for humor, right? But I'm like, oh my gosh, my mummy heart, I think you just killed it, And she would literally get up and close the door, so she wasn't bothered that I was reeling around on the floor.
Oh my goodness.
But you know where that all comes from, though, too, is we need our own life, right? As soon as I felt needy, I wanted to hold on to their ankles, like, stay with me, I love you. I have to feel that need myself. They're not there to feel that. Right? And so it's those changes that sort of create the relationship that I'm really happy I have with both my kids at this moment.
Yeah.
And it's always a work in progress. And I can tell you that what's beautiful about where you are now is, it's a learning. It'll be your learning, his learning. And actually, one thing when you were asking what did I learn, which I never ever learned in my nanny training, was ask them, how can I help you? And you can do that too when they're not while they're tantruming, but afterwards, how can mommy help you? Do you want a cuddle? Do you need a drink? Right? And so the power goes back to them. How can I help you? How can I support you? And that's what those lines have worked with me throughout raising my guys. Because I don't know. I don't friggin' know. Like, many times, I really don't know. I'm coming from it from a different place, from my background, my childhood, my need to make you feel good, whatever it be. Yeah. I don't know. So we should be asking, at the time, saying, how can I help you? Do you want mommy to rub your back when you're sad? Like, whatever it be. I'm thinking of little people. My big people would be like, what? But it's that kind of thing that you just, that was something else I really learned. Was that it's not all down to me, and that they really are wise. And let's get them in on it's their life. Let's get them in on the conversation and be really curious about what they have to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm always, the great British phrase that we say, I'm gobsmacked, which means gob meaning your mouth. And it just means like you would just be like stunned. It's a horrible word. That you're just stunned that, oh, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. They got it. we're not needed in that way. We don't have to lead for them all the time.
Well, and I do think that kids can, I 100% agree that kids are smarter than we give them credit for.
Yeah.
Like I was actually writing a letter to Grayson the other day where I was explaining to him, hopefully for him to read when he's older, that like age does not equal wisdom. That is not what makes you wise or what makes you able to handle something or, you know, whatever it is. And I was also reading this post, which kind of spurred on the letter, of this mom who talked about how she's going through something really traumatic in her life. And she said, I'm not afraid to let my daughter see me completely shattered because she's going to see me rise. And I just think that it's my biggest fear, right? To have Grayson see all my true colors, because I want to be this like perfect mom for him.
Got it together, strong woman. Yeah.
I want him to rely on me, you know, like I want him to think I'm there. And then it's also like this, but what's going to make him want to know me more is that I can say to him, like, this is really hard for me right now. I'm not perfect. And this is really difficult. And it sounds like that's what you did as a parent, or how you at least help your parents today when you coach them. Is being able to do that. And it's a fine line of like, how do I not make my kids feel guilty for how I feel? But then how do I let them know, like, I have feelings. I'm a human and you hurt my feelings, or this hurt my feelings, or this is how I feel. It's like,
I agree. It's a totally fine line, right? It totally is. And it's sort of, I think the key is when we look at, why am I sharing this? And if we keep that thought, why am I sharing this with them? And if you're sharing it for them to fulfill a need for you, do you know what I mean? Like if you're sharing it, like, please feel sorry for mommy. Mommy had a really tough day. Or if you're sharing it because you know, this is something I've learned. This is something I went through. That's a totally different picture. And they want to know us.
Oh yeah.
We all want to know, you know, where someone's from. But I think I know what you mean. Like, you don't want to share in that you're then putting that baggage on them, or that whatever it is on them. But you know, when you share, because you're like, so definitely as my kids were, as they started to get older, and say there were issues at school or problems at school, I could relate to some of that, you know. So the sharing can come from a place of, you know, wow, it's tough some days to be at school. You know, I actually found it really hard some days to be at school. And you share like that, as opposed to like, oh my God, yes, school is horrible. It's so stressful. It's so horrible. You're just going to have to make your way through it, just study really hard. Like, right? That's different. That's different languaging, right? Well, and it's good for them to know we have tough days. It's good for them to know that life sucks for us sometimes. It's okay. Because they, like you say, they see you rise, and they see that you actually, I mean, a big thing is that they see that you get through it. There's another end to it, right? It might not be quick, might take a long time, but they actually see that for them in their life, it's okay when it's tough, because it won't always be. That's like life lessons, right? Like that's how life is, up and down, up and down. It's not a joyful, calm, happy place all the time, or I've yet to find that place. Nope. If it is, I'm moving to Washington, where you are.
No, it's not here either. Don't. Stay there.
I came to the wrong country.
No, I think you're closer to it than we are probably, but
okay.
Canada's a good place to be. No, I can't agree with you more. That I think just being like human and making sure that your intentions are for them and not to get some sort of self-gain from it is really important. But again, it's like things just get thrown at you sometimes in parenthood. And so as moms, you just got to find that time to really reflect as much as you can, so that you can do what you were just saying, which is like, think about that, right? Am I sharing this with them because I want them to say poor mommy, or am I sharing this with them because I really want them to learn that either I've been there or like, I know I kind of have an idea, like level the playing field,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to show you what I learned from it. Or, you know, I just think sometimes as moms, even in just the short amount of time I've experienced being a mom, we don't give ourselves enough time to like really think about that and to really process, this is what I felt when this happened, or this is how I want to react in the future. There's just not a lot of like self-reflection time.
Yeah, and it's really hard to fit it in when being a mum is busy, especially everybody with, from being a stay-at-home mum to running businesses to having, lots of things on the go. We're always all busy. And I think it's just so important to find those moments that you can slip it in, to just sit a moment. I mean, I was totally against meditation practically all the way through my yoga teacher training, because I thought, oh gosh, who's got the time? Who can just sit there? I've got kids, I've got breakfasts to make, I've got all this thing. And I realized it's those kind of people, me, that really need it. And really now it's such a part, but it could be going for a walk, right? It could be going for a run if people like that. It could be sitting in a car and just letting your thoughts come. It can be sitting on a meditation cushion and being still for a few moments, and it can be being still for 20 minutes, half an hour. It's so, so important, because we need to give our brain a chance to just pause, right? And so it's in those pauses that we make better decisions about everything, about what I stuff in my mouth to eat. Do I want those cookies? Yes. Or can I pause a moment and say, actually, I'm actually thirsty? The pauses make a big difference in our life when we can take a moment. And there's a super easy, I guess you call it yoga breath. I don't know what you want to call it. When I'm really up in my head and I'm spinning, I just literally place one hand on my belly and one hand on my chest, and I feel my feet, because my feet bring me to this moment, and it's only this moment I need to worry about. And in this moment, and then I take a big breath in and a big breath out, and then I make my choice. And it's phenomenal. 2 seconds, whatever that will take. That really helped me kind of go, okay, now let's make a choice.
I'm going to try that. I feel like if I do that in front of Grayson when he's having a tantrum, he might stop to be like, what are you doing? Which will allow him to calm down a little bit. And then we can get on the same page. Yeah.
And I know, and tantruming is so hard. Like, I was really triggered by tantruming because I have my own anger. And so it would just be more like, and they don't do it in the best of times. You're trying to get out the door, or you're trying to, but when you can think, he some of his needs aren't being met right now, or he's just, it's just horrible when you lose control. It doesn't feel like a good thing. And they don't, Grayson doesn't have all the words, doesn't have all the brain power to kind of go through the thoughts. It's like, okay, so I didn't get my way. Let me think about this. They don't have that, right? They're reactive. It's beautiful. And the idea really is just, you just sit and try to keep yourself calm. That's the key. That's the only thing you are going to have control over, right?
I'm not very good at that, but I'll try. It's hard.
It's absolutely. You give it a try. You just sit and you just breathe, or you just kind of look around. That could be your meditation time. There you go. How long this tantrum lasts, I shall sit and just breathe. And then when you're ready, come and have a cuddle.
Yeah, I will say it makes me feel better. You said the triggering thing, because tantrums are, if anybody listens to these podcasts, like all the way through, or follows me on Instagram or anything, they would know I talk about Grayson's tantrums, I feel like more often than not, because they are really triggering for me, because it is just kind of like this, like we're just kind of walking down a road, and then all of a sudden a bear jumps out, and it's like, you're just like, what do you do? What's going on? Why are you upset? And of course there's no way to do that, right? And so in my world, where reasoning, you can see when they've lost the
plot, you see it. Yeah, you see it in their eyes. Like, there's no reasoning, no talking, no distracting. They've gone.
Gosh. It's so hard for me. And I'm very thankful, because he doesn't do it in public very often. He normally refrains to doing it at home. But gosh, I have like no patience when it happens. Like none. Yeah. It is. I try to do this like 1, 2, 3, take a breath with him, because I read it somewhere, and there are times that it works and he does a good job taking a breath, and he's frustrated the first time we do it, and then we try it again. But to get to that point where I want to do the 1, 2, 3 magic, I'm like, oh, I need to take a breath because what is wrong with you? Like, what are you doing? Stop doing that. I swear when I say, don't do that, he's like, oh, my mom said to do it 1,700 more times so I can watch your head pop off. Like, that's what he's hearing in his brain. And I don't know how to change that.
Yeah. And you know what? What if you knew that you actually don't have to? Your change only happens to be you. And so have it, I mean, this is just coming from the top of my head here, but I know, because I know those triggers. And when it stirs anger in me, we want to look at, what is that anger? Am I scared for him? Am I upset that I don't know what to do? I mean, it's horrible when you feel you don't know what to do. Is it annoying because he gets to have all this anger and you've had to control yours? I often felt really helpless. And my anger came from feeling helpless and feeling vulnerable about trying to help them, and that was the trigger in me. And so a lot of the time it really can be done if you really could look at him like an eagle eye, like looking down, and all you really would see, he's not doing it to get you. Got nothing to do with you. Not even got anything to do with you said no or whatever. It's just a normal stage to get him to the next level. He doesn't know. He doesn't know what he's doing. They don't at that age. They have no clue, And so that is the process that helped me a little bit with really realizing, like, if I look at him thinking, wow, he really is just trying to figure out life just like I am. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I could do the 2-year-old tantrum on the floor, Yeah, and it just can change your mindset that then when it happens, it's not a battle. The battle isn't, because they'll win. There's no point in having the battle because he'll win, because he's gone, right? He's in it. And so the idea is that, okay, mommy's going to sit over here, and when you're ready, let me know. And then you stay super calm, whatever you do that keeps you super calm, so that when he's done, there can be a cuddle and a little talk, and then the talk, it's forgotten and off we go. Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard because it's a trigger, right? And our trigger stays a little longer when they're up and happy and you're like, oh, do you know what you just said to me?
Well, I actually love that you just shared that, because I got goosebumps when you were saying he's not doing it because of those reasons. Like when you were like, what is it that's making you feel that way? And then I was like listing it in my mind, and you were saying a couple examples. And then when you were like, he's not doing it because of that. Like, that's a really eye-opening thing, that they are just so little. They're just little tiny humans that are just trying to make their way through this world with your help. And they aren't trying to make you frustrated and annoyed. Just they are frustrating and annoying.
Yeah, exactly. exactly. And it just comes from a different place, that this too shall pass. And then when they feel that you, like you say, I want to as well, and you mentioned it as well, I want to be their person they can come to, regardless of anything. And it starts now, right? That it's sort of this idea that no matter how you behave, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. Right? Not saying it's accepted. So there's definitely boundaries and things we can work on, hitting isn't allowed, this isn't allowed, those kind of things. But it comes from a different place, because once they've lost the plot, and often it can be they're thirsty, they're hungry, they're tired. I remember, actually, this just reminded me, when my kids were small, I would often, when they misbehaved, like they did for many times, someone once said to me, well, you always seem to think about there must be a reason that they were misbehaving. And that shocked me, because I thought, well, there has to be. Like, nobody misbehaves just to misbehave. I mean, I don't even. If I'm misbehaving, it's due to other reasons, and you realize there are reasons, right? Like, maybe they're a little tired. Maybe today it's just, the weather's changing, they have a headache. Maybe, it just feels like what's that book? A horrible, terrible, no good, bad day.
Yeah.
You have those. I can't remember what that book is, but yeah.
Yeah. I always try to think like, oh, maybe his tummy hurts, maybe his head hurts, like all the things that you just don't know because like he can't say that usually out loud, or he
Right.
doesn't understand, like he's tired, he needs to poop, like whatever it is. Maybe it's all of those things wrapped up into one. And then maybe it's last time I did get to play with this toy and now I don't, and I don't understand what the difference is. You know, it's like those little things, but
Yeah.
it's easy to say that now because he's not having a
Oh,
tantrum
yeah.
in front of me. But there are times that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally coming out of nowhere. I don't think anybody could put this puzzle together if they tried. Like, and I'm for sure like path of least resistant parent. Like, and I'm sure that is going to come and bite me in the butt someday. But if Grayson's having a hard time, or if I know, like if I take that away from Grayson, even though we need to probably move on or we need to get into the car or whatever it is, if it's annoying for me to take that toy into the car because it's not supposed to go in there, or it's loud, it's whatever, I'll think, whatever, I'm just going to bring the toy in the car, because I would rather not have the conversation with him right now of why he can't bring that in the car. Like, just bring it in the car.
And you know what? I give you a big round of applause for that. That makes things easier. That's it. That's fine. Because trust me, when he's 6, 7, 8, he's not going to be having these tensions. He'll have reasoning skills. You'll be able to have things, you know, that certain things don't. But for now, it really, let's keep it smooth for now. And it's not like avoiding tantrums, because they're going to happen.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's this sort of building of really picking your battles.
Yeah.
You know, big whoop. I'll be annoyed all the time in the car with this squeaky toy rather than a screaming boy. Sounds perfect to me.
Yeah. No, yes, that's what I do all the time. I'm like, okay, whatever I can do to make this a tad easier, which I think sometimes people make comments because it does look or feel like I'm letting him kind of get away with things, or I'm letting him do certain things. But in my mind, I'm like, you know what? When he's 4 or 5 and we have to have longer conversations, because now he's getting to the age where he's taking advantage of that fact that I let him do these things, then we can have those conversations. But for right now, he just like understands Mickey Mouse and food and nap, and that's like about it. Like, we're going to just surface level this.
And again, it taps into this worry of what it will be. But you know what? You're still this brilliant mom. You're still brilliant. He will know boundaries and rules just because you live that way.
Yeah.
Just because these are the way that you function. He's only 2, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that was a fear of mine. People would say, you know, oh, you know, if you let them get away with, they're the boss. What a load of crap. Can I tell you? They're the boss. They need to be the boss of their own life, but they're part of your life.
Yeah.
It's not about being the boss and winning one over. That's sort of like somebody's got their thumb on them, you know, like, you just behave. No, you be who you are, and let's work life with that. You know, he will naturally, once he has better language, once he has better understanding that his mind can work through, he won't need to. You'll be able to say, you know, those loud toys are not taking in the car. These are the ones that are available. Which one would you like to pick? He'll be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I do think it is like...
Yeah, and I know, because I had so many people telling me my kids are spoiled. And if you were to meet them, they are so not spoiled children because of who they are, because who I am, who my husband is, who they're surrounded by.
Yeah.
We all have spoiled moments. I have spoiled moments too.
Yeah.
When I have demands that I want everybody to follow.
Yeah. I do think that's funny that you said that. I do think it is just worrying too much about in the future. That's exactly what it is now that you say it out loud. I don't know how you stop that as a parent. I mean, you know, you've been doing it for 21 years. Do you stop that, or do you still worry about what they're going to be like when they even get older?
I've stopped it because I realized I actually have no control over it. So I'm stopping it. I guess I've lowered the frequency. I think it just does come as part of motherhood, probably fatherhood too, you know. But what I realized was, like, it's so funny. So the other day, my son, big boy, 21, totally independent, was heading to Montreal for a job. That's just another city in Canada. And I had to drive him to drop him off to where they were going because he didn't have a car. And as he gets out the car, I was into big old, okay, now remember, you're going to drink water, right? You're going to drink lots of water. Now, don't eat crap, right? Can you eat healthier while you're there? Do you think you could? I mean, he's just smiling at me, right? Like, what a woman is this? Who is this woman? You know? And it was all my own fear and worry, which really, me saying that, does that make any difference to him? He's 21. He can go buy beer, what alcohol. He could go weed. He could do whatever he wants. But I needed to just put those bits in there. You know, thinking, gosh, you're going to be sitting a lot. Make sure you. So, yeah, answer your question. I don't know if it ever goes away. I think doing our own work around where that fear comes from, and having this responsibility for someone else's life is terrifying and overwhelming, right? Having children, but it is. There's parts of I don't want my kids to grow up feeling fearful. And if we're really fearful, they're going to be fearful. So that was my work. I don't want them to be scared of life, scared of going for it. So what am I doing about that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good. I feel like I could just talk to you forever.
This is lovely.
I'm coming to Toronto. We're going to hang out. This is going to happen.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that eventually. I really cannot thank you for your time today. I think your experience as, I would say, a mom coach obviously resonated with me because there was a few things that you said that I'm going to go back and write down for my own notes. So I really appreciate it. But before we end,
you're very welcome.
As a mom of adults and as a mom who's kind of dedicated her career to helping parents and being a yoga instructor and all that, what is your one piece of advice that you have for all the mamas out there?
Beautiful. So I actually thought about this because I could tell you lots, but I think what it boils down to is to lean back a little from your mama role, knowing it's their journey. So you can do that physically or just think about lean back. As soon as your mind wants to run off with things, lean back. And the next piece, the really big one, is and be super, super kind to yourself. Super kind to yourself.
Yeah, those are both
That
really good. I think those are both also really hard to do.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yes. And none of it's easy. Absolutely. But we could start with even to be super, super kind to yourself.
Yes. And at least just trying.
To remember, you're doing what you know. You're doing a good job because you're showing up every day and trying to figure out this blooming thing called motherhood.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, so good. All right. Well, I, again, cannot thank you enough for your time. I really appreciate it. And
you're very welcome, Sarah.
I'm coming to Canada.
Yay! Sounds perfect. Well, thank you so very much for having me on and giving me a chance to kind of share what I'm about, and hopefully some mamas will resonate.
I think a lot of mamas will resonate from that. Thank you for listening. I hope you loved it. Please subscribe to this podcast so you can get the latest episodes, and tell us what you think about it in the reviews. And mamas, I love you.